Hello, hello, my beautiful family. I'm your host, Mimi Talud, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Make Your Time Matter family. So, Make Your Time Matter is a podcast that I am starting, and the podcast is all about making time for what truly matters. And that includes yourself, your loved ones, your passion, whatever bring you joy and happiness. That's what this podcast is all about. So this is not the first episode. It is only an introduction. I have decided to do an introduction episode. Why am I doing an introduction episode? I just wanted to introduce myself so that you guys know me on a more personal level. And I want to also introduce the podcast so you guys know what this podcast is all about. There are four different key points that I want to touch on today, which is podcast introduction. What is this podcast? And who I am, so you guys get to know me a little bit. Why Make Your Time Matter? Why did I decide to start a podcast called Make Your Time Matter? And then what can you guys expect in this podcast? Let's start with the podcast introduction. The name of the podcast is Make Your Time Matter. And like I said, it's a podcast about making time for yourself, making time for your loved ones, going after your dreams, balancing, your busy lifestyle. Because I realize that as an adult, we get very busy, okay? Like it can be busy with work, busy with managing your business, busy with taking care of your kids, your family, whatever it may be. When it comes to adulthood, it is busy, okay? I remember my mom used to tell us all the time, you guys don't want to be adult. And I used to be like, no, I definitely want to be an adult. Now I understand why she was telling me that. If I could go back in time, guys, I would I would definitely be a kid again and don't have to worry about bills and responsibility and just go to school and do my homework. I would take that. Yeah. So if you are young, you're still in school and you're listening to me right now, trust me, your parents are not lying when they say that adulthood is not where you want to be. So do enjoy your childhood. Don't rush it. Let's move on. So who I am. My name is William Talud. This is my full legal name, but my nickname is Mimi. So I feel like we are going to be family. We are going to be hanging out a lot and spending time together, talking about fun little topics like making your time matter. So I figure that my nickname will be more appropriate and it's also easier to remember. And honestly speaking, I usually introduce myself as Mimi. So yeah, I think I kind of like the sound of Mimi. So for the podcast, we're going to use my nickname Mimi. Um, I have two little sisters, Winnie and Wilnafki. Um, they're my youngest sister. I am the eldest of my family, and I love them. And that's my family. I was born and raised in Haiti. I was raised in a small town called Pierre-Payen. It's like the countryside in Haiti. It's very quiet, beautiful town, very small, where everyone knows everybody. And we also by the beach as well. So that's a perk, even though I don't know how to swim. But anyways, that's where I'm from. It's pretty nice. So it's definitely a different lifestyle from here, the United States. My family migrated here between 2010 and 2011. I came first in 2010. That's when I stayed here permanently. I used to come when I was younger, back and forth, but we never stayed here permanently. But I finally stayed permanently back in 2010, and the remainder of my family came in 2011. And now we reside in New York. To be a little bit more specific, we live in Long Island, New York. If you're from New York, you probably heard of Long Island. Yeah, it's an expensive island. So yeah, I like to say that I live in the most expensive state and probably one of the most expensive county in the state. um, as you can see, I live in New York. Life is expensive here and you have to hustle. I'm an adult. I'm done with school. I work full time for the state of New York and I also work part time for the military. So I am a member of the Army National Guard. And I recently got my real estate license. So as you can see, I am always keeping myself busy. I'm always doing something. And as you can imagine, I do have a very busy schedule. I know that a lot of people have a busy schedule. And what happened is when we have busy schedule, a lot of time we kind of get sunk in to our work that we kind of forget about ourselves a little bit. I know I was doing it like when I first started my career, I was so stuck. Like all I could think about every day was my job. Like even when I was off, I would constantly be thinking about my job. And I came to the realization that I wasn't happy. I reached a point in my life I was truly unhappy. And for the longest time, I didn't know why I was so unhappy. It was like, why am I so unhappy? I went to school, I got the degree, I got a job, I'm making good money. Like, for crying out loud, I have my own apartment, I'm able to pay for it. Life was going good, okay? And it's what I always wanted, being an immigrant who comes to the United States and seeing your mom working minimum wage to support three kids, as a single parent. Like, it's hard, and one of my biggest goal has always been to be successful, to have a job where I make a salary and I'm able to pay my bill perfectly and not live paycheck to paycheck. And I was doing all that. Like, I was done with school, I had the job, I was able to pay for my bills. I was supposed to be happy. That's what I was expecting, but I wasn't. And for the longest, I keep asking myself, why am I so unhappy? And I couldn't figure it out. Then I finally realized that I had no hobby. I wasn't engaging in any kind of activity that brought me joy. I was pretty much neglecting myself in a way. Um, it wasn't done on purpose. It just kind of happened. Whereas, you become an adult, life gets so busy, and you kind of forget yourself a little bit. You don't make time for yourself. You don't enjoy yourself. And I didn't think that would affect me, but it did. I was really unhappy, and I knew I had to make some changes. And some of these changes, including making time for myself, engaging in activity that bring me joy and happiness. And once I started doing all these things, I was happy. I was truly happy. And since then, I've embarked in this new journey where I prioritize myself, I prioritize self care, and I make sure I schedule time for myself. I make sure I schedule time to hang out with my loved ones, either family, friends. And it's been going it's been going really good so far. And because of my positive experience, I decided to start this podcast and share my experience with you guys. So, what you can expect in this podcast is to hear stories about my life, my journey, where I come from, how I got here. I also plan to interview people who have something to say. I believe we all have a story to tell, no matter what your background is, no matter how much money you have, no matter what kind of education you have. We all have a story to tell. And we all go through experience in life, and we learn from those experiences. And I think it is a good idea to start sharing these experiences with others, because us human, we learn from each other, okay? We fuel from each other. I know for a fact that I observe my friends, I observe my family, and I learn from them. And I know they learn from me too, which is what I want to do with this podcast. I want to build a positive community, a community that encourage people to go after what they want in life, that encourage people to make time for themselves, that encourage people to just enjoy life, to just enjoy life. So this is why I'm starting this podcast, and I hope that I can share my story in a way that can motivate you guys, to start making some changes in your life. So honestly speaking, I'm just kind of like rumbling off. I don't even know where I was going with this. But anyway, just to go back on what I was saying, life get busy, and sometimes we neglect ourselves. And I just kind of want to bring awareness to that fact. I want to bring awareness that we need to start making time for ourselves. I know it can be tough, especially when you live in America, especially when you live in a state like New York where it is expensive, and a lot of people here have two jobs, okay? A lot of people here are working two full-time job, or they have one full-time and a part-time. People are hustling here to survive, especially if you are an immigrant and you just came here to the United States, don't have any connection, and you work in minimum wage. So life can be really hard here, and people work a lot. And when people are working a lot, people are tired, so that on their day off, all they want to do is just sleep, relax, and people just don't enjoy life. And I want to bring awareness to that. I want us to talk about it and be open. And I want to encourage people to start prioritizing themselves. The goal for the podcast is to build a positive and empowering community. I want to help my listeners to reflect on their life and prioritize happiness and their well-being. When you make time and you engage in activity that bring you joy and happiness, it will make a difference. The happier you are, the easier life will get. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I hope I am. Like I said, I'll be sharing my story, and I'll be sharing the story of the amazing guests that I will be interviewing. Yeah, so that's pretty much my goal for the podcast. What can you guys expect? I plan on airing one episode every 2 weeks, which means 2 episodes a month. I know it doesn't seem like much, but like I said, I do have a busy schedule. I am doing a lot. And I still want to do this podcast because I've always wanted to help people. I know both of my job that I have right now, in a way I am helping people, but I just feel like I'm not helping people in the way that I want to help people. Like, I want to help people by encouraging them, motivating them to go after what they want in life. I want to encourage people to enjoy life, live life to the fullest. I want to put a smile on people's face. And I really hope that this podcast will do that for some people. And even though I don't have a lot of time, I'm still going to try my best to air at least 2 episodes a month. So that's the plan. The episode will be a mixture of solo, just like I'm doing right now, just me talking. And then I'm going to have interview episode where I interview guests who will share their story, their journey, and how they balance life and how they enjoy life in general. Some topics that you guys can expect will include topic like believing in yourself, having faith, balancing work, family, personal goals, prioritizing self-care, mental health, building habits and routine that support happiness, finding meaning and joy in everyday experience. Like, all these kind of topics is just topics that will kind of like motivate you and help you to stay positive and navigate life. So these are the kind of topic you can expect on the podcast. I feel like whether you work a 9 to 5, or whether you are someone who have your own business that you are managing, or whether you are someone who just want to carve out time for yourself, for your loved ones, whatever it may be, I feel like this podcast is for you. This podcast is for everyone who want to make time for themselves, everyone who want to prioritize themselves, self-care, whatever it may be. There's going to be a topic in this podcast for you. It's very broad. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different topics on here. So if you listen to this introduction and you kind of like the idea of the podcast, follow us on Instagram at Make Your Time Matter, just to stay connected and to be updated. I kind of forgot the word for a minute. Let's conclude this episode. And before I leave, I want to tell you guys to make your time matter, okay? Make the time, prioritize yourself, go out there, enjoy life, and be happy. So this is what I want to leave you guys today. And hopefully you guys like the idea of the podcast. And hopefully I see you on my next episode, which is going to be episode number 1 and is going to be aired 2 weeks from now. So see you next time. Au revoir.